I don't know. That's a weird thing. That might be like a psychological thing that I need to unblock.
Go see it. Make an appointment for the therapist.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Welcome to another episode of Not As Interesting As We Think. This is Julie. I'm Dave, and we're here to talk about art and things. So, yeah. But listen, we've got some housekeeping. I'm popping this on Julie real quick, but we've got some housekeeping, some things we need to take care of in the beginning because there's some things that have changed. Number one, technology. Might be a little different than what you've seen so far, and that's only because I'll tell you more about that in a moment in the lifestyle basics. But the other thing is that we have an audio podcast now. So if you have Spotify, if you have Apple Podcasts, if you have, what's the other one, Google Play, or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts, you can actually find Not As Interesting As You Think with the links in the description. And so if you go down to links in the description and find the podcast there, do us a favor, listen to all the episodes so far, and then make sure that you rate the podcast because that's going to help us reach out to more people. The more ratings we get, the more likely we're going to get heard, the more people that we can share the love to. So please do that for us. What's that?
The future is in their hands.
Yes, the future is in your hands.
Where else can you get something like that? Where else can, honestly, whatever. Dave, what do we got on the agenda today? Tell me the top. What do we have to look forward to?
Okay, so today
this is episode 4. Episode 4. Here we go.
This is episode 4. I can't believe we made it. So the first thing on the agenda today is what defines an art business. We're going to talk about that. Second thing we're going to talk about is how do we balance our commercial side with our creative side. And then if we get to it, then we're going to talk about art and activism. And the problematic aspect of that has, I'm going to try to really not get too animated about that one, Julie, because it really just gets, under the skin. But anyway, so that's our agenda. And, we'll be talking about all those things.
I, on the other hand, have only one speed, and it's animated. So buckle up.
Yeah, I don't want to. There's going to be a moment in this conversation, folks, where you better have strapped in because it might be like you might be like this the whole time. And
I'm always on 11.
Yeah, and for those of you who are listening to the audio podcast, maybe for reference, go open up the YouTube so you can see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Dave, tell us about your lifestyle basics.
Oh my gosh, I put this in the notes and I was like, I don't even know. Oh, you know what, Julie, I forgot that. So one thing that we told each other we were going to do is we're going to keep ourselves on time. We already messed it, but that's okay. I got the timer on here now, so we know to keep ourselves in check. Anyway, so I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to talk about this after I said I was going to talk about it, but only because it's like, oh man. So anyway, complete, total malfunction, technical failure on my MacBook Pro, just out of the blue, literally in the middle of typing what I think was one of my best blog posts of recent, weeks. And then all of a sudden the screen just went black and the fan just went like, right? Like it just like total, I don't know what happened. Couldn't get it to reboot, tried all the different, techniques, all the finger placements on all the keys to try and get it to work. Couldn't get it to work. Couldn't get it. I could hear that something was happening, but I couldn't see anything. There was no, I couldn't see what was going on. So I took it to a tech, and I haven't heard from them yet. But basically what they said they were going to do is they were going to take out my motherboard, and they were going to put it in a bath.
Oh, boy.
See if it'll work.
This doesn't sound good.
No. So right now I'm operating, this is part of the technical problem that we're having with this. I don't have a webcam. I have my iPad in front of me, and I'm just using that as my video. And you're not getting the fancy microphone that Julie has. That does nothing for me. So this is it. This is us. So that's me.
Your lifestyle basics.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I had a lifestyle basic planned that now I'm taking it completely off the agenda because something got me thinking. This morning, I got a text from my elementary neighborhood school BFF, and her father passed away. And he's 90s. So I was, she was telling me how we need to catch up and whatever. And I had just watched this crazy show on Netflix called Can I Tell You a Secret, which is about phishing and texting and crazy social media things that are happening. And I was wondering, okay, her father passed. This is a very sad news, but how can I make sure this is not somebody? I didn't have the number. It wasn't an unrecognized, it was an unrecognized
Mm.
number. So I'm thinking to myself, so I'm trying to think to myself, well, how can I verify it's for her? So as I was sitting here trying to figure out how I could get a code word from her to know it's really her, she gave me one. And she said, well, we were talking about the funeral. And if you could just meet us down here. And she named like a really old school deli from our childhood where we used to like hang out and just wander the streets. We were hooligans in
Oh,
the
nice.
day. And I started to think about, you know what? And I thought this would appropriate and this would be okay for me to go over my 1 minute of lifestyle basics because you're in the same boat. We are Gen X. Is Gen X the last great generation? We did not have Pinterest. We didn't have social media for the most part. Our childhoods and essentially our formative years were built by thinking of things ourselves. No regurgitation, no trying, no agenda, just being ourselves. So I'm like stuck. My lifestyle basics is right now, these days, I'm stuck in a perpetual state of how was I formed? Why are my beliefs so different than everything of so much of what I'm seeing that isn't coming from somebody who's Gen
Mm.
X? And I think that's the key.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, we can definitely go down that rabbit hole, but I wonder if it has to be culture, and it might even be different for us because of where we grew up, right here in Southern California versus like um,
Somewhere
some
more isolated. Yep.
someplace a different culture completely in
Yeah.
the South or in the
Big
Northwest. But
cities. Right.
yeah, like so, it's interesting because yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think about that all the time about like how my kid never goes out to play ball with his friends, and that was
Disappears for hours.
yeah. I don't
Never.
I don't do that. He didn't do that, and I did that all the time. And my mom was just like, "Dinner's at 6."
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
We're like running down the railroad tracks and going across the street and riding our bikes
Right.
in places we shouldn't have been riding our bikes in. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I mean, I think that these things come in waves. I think that I'm super biased, but I look at my kid and I'm hopeful because he's not constantly on social media. Like he's hardly ever on social media, other than like if you consider YouTube social media, right? He plays video games, yes, but he's smart, he's generous, he's kind, mostly.
Right.
He's an achiever, and maybe he's the standout. I'm not sure, but if there's more kids like him, then I think we'll be okay. I mean, I do know this. His school is pretty diverse, and his friend group are pretty open-minded about that diversity, and not just racial diversity, but also gender diversity and
Right.
ability, diversity. There's not a lot of. I mean, to my knowledge, he's never told me there's not a whole lot of bullying. It happens, of course, it's middle school, but who knows? Maybe. Sorry, millennials. Maybe we skipped a year.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess this was just my lifestyle basic. It's a hot thing on my mind right now. So I thought, but maybe we can go do a deep dive because I definitely see different agendas, different types of drive. I respect that everything is different, but it's shockingly different to me. A lot of the processes that people then in small creative businesses are going and expecting than what I have for my own beliefs and success and practices. But so anyway,
Yeah,
that's a thing. It just felt weird to me.
yeah. I'm writing it down in the notebook.
Oh,
Gen X, greatest
yes,
generation
generation of all time,
of
Gen
all
X
time.
of all time.
I think we should start a campaign.
Yeah, I'll be the president.
I wrote that. wrote that
I'll
down.
make us. We can get shirts and buttons and everything.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Oh
That's
God,
what
this made me
that's
think
it.
of
That's
something
just
else. But that's
what's going
what's
on.
that?
It's a lot of flashbacks and memories and a lot of revisiting old, oh, can you believe we did that? A lot of that going on right now.
Yeah.
In my head, in my mind. Change is upcoming. I think that happens with everybody once they get to our age. A lot of stuff is coming. A lot of stuff is changing. So
yeah,
it's sometimes hard, but the memories are, I think, what helped me a lot.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. Well, give us a topic. How was that for
It's
1
good.
minute?
It's only 7.5. It's okay. Well, actually, I didn't. Okay.
That's all right.
So let's talk about art and what defines an art business. Because, I think you posed this question. You said, how to identify your needs and have realistic expectations. And when I think of like an art business, like my realm is really wide, right? Like my spectrum of an art business is pretty wide. And I think it's because I'm fairly open-minded. Than most, there's some individuals that just aren't, right? You're very open-minded about this stuff, obviously. I think that it's just, I don't know. I guess that's the question. Let me ask you, because you're a thriving artist, you've got a really successful business going on, and you don't do traditional things. What defines an art business to you?
Well, I think it's got to be different. I think that's a question that everybody needs to hammer out for themselves. I don't think that there's a cookie cutter problem. And that goes back to the first thing that I'm talking about. When things start to become cookie cutter, I think that's when we start to have doubt and questions, and you're not seeing something that's authentic. I want to be with authenticity is very important to me. So if I were to tell you what is the definition of an art business and it's the same as mine, I would feel like I can't ethically say that. I take pride in being able to say I'm doing myself. My art business is myself, and the definition of what I'm going to do to survive could be different than somebody else's. I think cookie cutter definitions of what is an art business are really bad.
Right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of people that have those cookie cutter versions, and we've all run across them.
Yes.
Is there ever a moment where you feel like that's not a business? Have you ever seen anybody or witnessed that from somebody else?
I don't ever look at somebody's information that I come across and go, that's not a business. I think that's not a business that I'm interested in, for sure, because I want to go with the authentic, different things that's my taste and my style. If somebody makes posters of kitties all day long, and that's their business, and then to me, if somebody else goes, well, I'm going to do an art business, and then they start making posters of kitties. I don't know. If I can't try to figure out what I'm trying to say here is what I'm trying to say, I think, is the best type of art business is the art business that is most authentic to yourself. And because I don't believe that we're all the same. I feel that the businesses that start to run into trouble and maybe the businesses that start to falter are those that did not answer that question right at the top of the list. Right at the top. Right?
Yeah. So let me pose a different question related. Yeah. When do you move from amateur or hobbyist to professional? Like, where's the delineation for you?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I would really put any value in that label because it has such a plethora of different definitions. What's we posed this question on social media a few weeks ago. What's the definition of a full-time artist? What's the definition of a professional artist? A full-time artist to me says this is somebody who doesn't have another job. This is the sole drive of income. Full-time artist. Professional artist to me is somebody that acts professional, somebody that is producing professional product. This is product that is archival and that meets like all sorts of like standards to where the product is viable and long lasting and whatever, and it's somewhat, I guess, limited in its production. That's a professional business. Well, I guess you can't be limited because I do believe that you could sell prints in that, but I would I don't know if I would put any value on the word professional in somebody's resume if they were an artist.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. It was so.
Like what like tell me like what in what context would you put any value on that word being in
Well,
somebody's resume?
I think that there's two ways to look at this, and I thought about this because I did see another post that somebody posted that question, and I have two thoughts, and it almost made. I mean, some people may see these as being the same, but I see professional and professionalism as not necessarily congruous. Like they're not necessarily the same thing. So when I think of professionalism, I think of somebody who does what you were saying, right? Produces quality work, does everything they can to make the work the best possible quality. Where the what happens to the painting after it's done, how it's handled, how it goes out to the customer, all that stuff. How they're like if they're dealing with clients, how their customer relationship is like that. That's all professionalism. But when I think about like the word professional versus like say amateur, I think of like sports, right? Because like an amateur doesn't make money. Theoretically, an
Yeah.
amateur doesn't make money. A professional does. Like an amateur
Okay.
golfer doesn't make money, but a professional golfer does.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that's being a blurred line now too. I think about I always thought about it before as like college versus real world, right? So a college player couldn't get paid, and then they go to the NBA or whatever, they go to the NFL and they can't get paid. But obviously that's all changed. And this is a totally like going down a different, like I'm digressing a little bit,
Right.
but yeah, so I look at it that way. Like if you made money more than one time and you're proceeding to continue to make money from your art, then you are an art professional.
I get that. I get that. And now that you mention it, I understand that. I think then maybe my issue is going to be my, when people ask me, what do you do? I just say artist. I don't say I'm a professional artist. I don't know. An example is
Yeah.
before I was painting, I actually was a photographer. And for some reason in that instance, I was calling myself a pro because I was generating income based solely on photography jobs. And it's just kind of weird. I don't think I called myself very long, and I definitely didn't make the transition to calling myself a professional artist at all for some reason. So maybe it's just like in the photography industry, a lot of people say that I'm a pro, but like just a couple weeks ago, I was in a public place with a friend of mine, and we're walking, and some people next to us said, "Oh, can you take our picture?" And I go, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." With iPhone, selfie souvenir. I take their picture and I go, "There you go, no charge, for a joke." And everybody always laughs when I say that. But my friend goes, "You're lucky. She's a professional." And I just kind of went like, oh God, don't bring that, because I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe I just don't want to open myself up to whatever type of information can come along with saying that because I'm not really taking photography jobs anymore.
Mm.
I don't know. That's a weird thing. That might be like a psychological thing that I need to unblock.
Go see it. Make an appointment for the therapist.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Well, and part of the post that made me question this a little bit for myself is that some of the respondents to the question were talking about the professionalism side of things, and they were talking about like dealing with clients. So like illustrators, photographers, or whatever, who have a relationship or design or whatever. It's a client or B2B relationship, right? And so I understand that now. It's like, okay, so there's a lot of people that can do that. A lot of people that make money as a designer, but they don't have the same level of professionalism. So who is more of a professional, this guy or that person? What I'm saying. So I guess it is. There's this gray area between these two.
Well, here's the thing, and here's something that I'll put in there to make you think about it. The designer that you mentioned, and how do we know if they're at that level? They could be the best designer in the world to one client. They could just be a regular designer to another client. So maybe the word professional resides in how others perceive you.
Oh yeah, like
Maybe
is in the art.
everybody doesn't perceive you as the same level of aptitude as the artist next door.
Mm, that's interesting. So professional is maybe output. I feel like a professional. right? But my
Right.
client maybe doesn't relate to my professionalism, or maybe they don't
Maybe.
think I have professional. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Or,
Wow, this is a good
maybe
topic.
they, yeah, this is a good topic.
Yeah.
So I think it could, that's why I don't feel, I mean, I see those engagement posts all the time on threads, and
Mm,
I don't respond very often, and I don't like dive in because there's not one mold. I think that's a whole nother topic. We need to recognize these are just discussion burners that really don't hold any value except for engagement
mm.
driving. So it's a topic with no one right answer, and it's a topic that everybody has an opinion on. Ding. So that's why we see it so much.
Yeah.
I think, yeah,
I
that's what
think
I
it.
say.
I think that's a good topic. I'm writing that one down too. That's for next episode, guys.
Oh yeah, stay tuned.
In my chicken scratch. Okay, so I read this post on what was it? Beautiful Bizarre magazine. It's actually I read it online, and it was they were posing a question. They pose a question on a pretty regular basis to like 5 different artists, And if you're not familiar with Beautiful Bizarre, it's an art magazine, but kind of like outsider art, and they do some, share some, kind of like Juxtapose or High
Yep.
Fructose or something like that.
Yeah.
But they pose a question and they have 5 artists to answer it. And the question that they posed this time was how to balance the commercial side of an art business with the creative side. And I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, when I first read this, I thought, oh, this is easy. And then I started thinking about it, and it's like I found myself again, like in this like situation where it's like, man, like I don't know if I know the answer. I don't know if I know the. I mean, I don't know if I know the answer for myself. I'd be interested to hear what you think about this.
Well, this is a shocking situation because I read the title of the article when you put it on the agenda, the proposal,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, yeah, I got that. And then I read the article. I was like, I got that. And then I reread it again this morning, and I was like, what the heck? Wait a minute. This means two completely different things to what
Mm-hmm.
I would think again. There's no that's the theme of the episode. There's no mold here.
No rules, no
Listen,
mold.
the article is talking about I read the first couple of the responses were very wordy,
Yeah,
very and I was like, oh boy, come on.
yeah,
Can we be
yeah.
honestly, you want authentic Julie is very straightforward. I don't have any fluff. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say, but commercial, this is like also are people this is the question I have for you to interpret this segment. Are people thinking that they're going to be an artist, right, and they're going to paint their heart out, but then they also need to paint a different category of things that they think will sell in the
Oh,
marketplace? Because initially I thought, okay, this is the creative side and the business side, and how do you time management for each one of those, because there's a lot of stuff going on for the business that is not sitting with a paintbrush. So the first couple of responses to that article, I was like, wait, what a second, what is happening here? So what is it? What's the question?
I
Def-
mean, well,
I
that's
was
the
so I'm gonna
thing.
say
I think
like
it really goes
define.
said about interpreting because everybody can interpret it a little differently. So,
Right, so for this, define commercial.
God, that's a great question. God, that's a hard one, Julie. Jeez.
This agenda is just ripe with controversy.
I think commercial. Well, my instinct, my knee jerk reaction is to say B2B, right? Because I grew
What
up
do
as
you
a
mean?
like business to business,
Okay.
like professional to client, right? Artist to art director, designer to business or whatever. Because that's my world. That's where I came from, right?
Okay.
But let's just say if it's not that, if it's not somebody who's like client-based business or freelance or anything like that, it's just somebody who's an artist. What does commercial mean?
See, that's a tough one.
It's so tough because it could be so. I think it really does go back to our first question, like what makes an art business? Because it's all going to be determined by the individual. Because there were probably some artists, like fine artists, visual painters. Sorry, I'm all over with words. Who are just all about the art, right? They go the traditionalists, right? They just paint and then they hand it off to their dealer
Rep.
or gallerist
Rep.
or whatever, and then they almost are detached from the commercial side of it because they don't deal with it at all, right? There's people that are like that. They show up at events, they talk, they go to their openings or whatever, and then they go on podcasts and they talk about it, but they're not attached to the actual transaction. So they probably don't feel it's commercialism. But then there's other people who paint like you, right? Who paint on a regular basis, sell on a regular basis, right? And the very close to the act, right? But does that make you commercial? Or is it just, like, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. I got this like really sinking feeling that like, okay, this article, the respondents on the article were saying to them that commercial means, yeah, I paint, wild stuff or whatever. But whatever, here's what let me takes a couple minutes. Whatever I am producing, what my passion for art is not what is widely received by people that purchased art. So I need to tame it down and paint something that's more simplified or more commonly sought after in order to make a living.
Hmm.
I've never even thought about that.
I
I
have
think
to admit,
about I think about how I could do it because I think about what I see, but I'm like, who has the time? I'm struggling here to paint what I want to paint. Why am I going to paint two different types? I think I'm just personally going to accept the pace at which my paintings are selling and continue developing my own vision I don't want to dive into a commercial person. That's not authentic.
yeah,
That's a lie. It's a cover up.
yeah. I think that you've touched on something there, and I have to admit that I've probably felt that in the past because my work is obviously not. It's not accessible to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that appreciate it, they like it, and they enjoy it, but they won't buy it. It may not be something that they could see in their home because it's a little bit bold, it's a little aggressive, and that for whatever reason. And I've in the past, I don't think this way anymore, but there have been moments in the past where it's like, well, shoot, if I don't sell something, I'm gonna go broke, right, or whatever, or like I'm not gonna be able to put gas in the car, whatever. Like
Right.
this is the past, and it's like there's moments there where you just have this this feeling of like, well, I got to do something.
Right.
I've got to do something to make this work, and I think that it's just like, yeah, is it possible to do both? And I think about actually going back to people that do client-based work, right? Can you delineate, right? Okay, so I have my commercial side where I paint things that are more accessible, right? And people want to buy t-shirt graphics and things that go on posters and whatever. And then also have this other side and be okay with both, where I paint my art and then I have my commercial and I have both and be okay with both.
That's tough, because then now I'm thinking, okay, well, what kind of art is not accessible? Let's just think something that's, let's think of different types of art that limit their collectorship for sake of talking. What politically charged, religiously motive, and nudity, profanity, these hot topics.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like, can't you just make something then and leave out the boobs for sake of talking?
Yeah, but is that compromising your art?
I mean, if you have a painting and every single painting has boobs in it, I think maybe you need to recognize that is a limiting topic.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that for sake of talking.
No, I understand. That's kind of how I feel, even though I don't.
You have kids, you don't want boobs on the, you have kids, you don't want little kids, you don't want boobs on the wall.
Yeah.
I don't open Architectural Digest and see very many, swastikas on the, you know what I mean? Like you need you got to understand what your reach is. If your passion is to paint those controversial topics, then I think what's important here is to understand you are going to have limitations in the marketplace. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So I guess then it's like just mentally figuring out like, okay, what am I all in on this thing?
Yeah.
Or do I hedge my bet a little bit and have some stuff that's more accessible?
I don't know. That's a tough one. That's only something that you can say. How hungry are you?
Yeah, for sure.
So to speak.
We don't have the answers, folks, but we have
No,
plenty of questions.
yeah, there's so many questions today. Yeah. That's
Okay.
I mean, so Dave, you want to talk about your emotionally charged topic here?
Look out, folks. Look out.
Buckle up.
Okay, so creatives in the news. There's two women that went into the Louvre and they threw paint at the Mona Lisa, and it's not the first time. Obviously, there was somebody that went in, the other day. Like she was like, it was totally, like she was in a wheelchair, and I think she was bound to a wheelchair, but she had like a pie underneath her blanket or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I don't. I recognize. I've been there to the Louvre, and I know that you can't do any damage to the Mona Lisa. You can't. All you're damaging is you're probably getting. The cleaning lady has to come and clean the pie off the glass, but you're not going to damage the Mona Lisa. It's too well protected. But there have been other ones. Like I think somebody did that to
Banksy.
Monet or something like that.
Yes.
Too. And it's just like, but they hit the painting with it, right? They actually damaged the painting with paint or some sort of, I don't know, maybe it was soup. I don't know. But they made actual damage to the piece.
I do not understand this.
I don't get it either. And it just drives me nuts. It's like, why is this a thing? Because I can't imagine anybody in the world who sees this and goes, "Oh, I'm going to think about climate change now." Right? I'm suddenly very aware of climate change because this person pied the Mona Lisa. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand this. And I was thinking about this when we proposed the article. I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, wait a second. I can't remember the cause of any of the. It just feels like blatant vandalism. I feel like there are more effective ways to protest. I can tell you why people shut down a freeway most recently.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you why, people threw flour on Kim Kardashian at the last premiere.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, the PETA, the animal activists throw flour on her. A flour bomb is going to on a celebrity is because of fur. You remember that? I can't remember why anyone's bringing a pie into the museum to throw at a painting. I honestly can't. It doesn't go hand in hand.
Yeah, there's no correlation. I mean, if they had thrown a can of oil at it,
Exxon,
that makes a little bit of sense, right?
Right.
But just going and dumping paint or a pie or soup or whatever on a painting, that's not. I mean, that all that feels like is that is performance art. It's performance art. You're right. Then you are activist at that moment. Right?
But people don't remember the reason why.
No, they don't. They remember the act. They have no idea why you did it.
You're just making a mess.
Yeah.
Newsflash.
And even on the off chance one of those activists sees this video, they're not going to care what we have to say about it, right? But they're still going to go out and do their thing. But it's so, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I don't get it. It's almost interesting. Now, let's roll back to last week's topic of the creatives in the news when we talked about all of these guys going up on that skyscraper, painting the graffiti. Whereas that brought real attention, like that they legitimately went in there and brought attention to the topic of this eyesore of a building that can't be funded, that can't be built.
But their issue was with big developers.
Yeah,
and the homelessness, and that topic was, but why? So why do we think that is? They essentially were vandalizing. They were vandalizing. It was, there's no question. They're trespassing. They're doing things that are not, and they're doing it repetitive. Is it because it was very easy to see because the building was 30 stories high and a lot of people can see it from all over? Is it because people were jumping off the building? Is it because it was repetitively in the news over and over? Every time they clean it up, they come back in, blah, 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 arrests.
Yeah. I think that's
Whereas,
constantly going. The news, it was constant news cycle for at least 2 weeks. I mean, it's still happening. I'm still talking about it. Like, they're going to have to pay, city is paying $4 million to get it cleaned up now.
okay,
And they're going to try and bill the company, the
owner,
yeah, the owner who's in China, who has actually disappeared. They've
right?
liquidated, I think. So
Yeah,
we're not getting that money back. But and now they're trying to find, they're trying to bring in a bunch of investors to try and finish that project.
yeah.
But yeah. But I mean,
We remember it.
yeah. And it still had very polarizing topics about it, right? There were some sides that's like, oh, it's just trash, it's graffiti, it's like, it's a bad thing, they're all criminals. And then there's like, these are activists, and maybe even passively activists, because they're just like, some are just hopping on the trend, but there are people that are doing it, and it's bringing a lot of attention to an important topic in the city. But throwing paint at art, like, nobody, I can't think of anybody that says, like, except for maybe other activists, like, that think like, yeah, I'm behind this. Let's go. Like, I just don't know anybody who's doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, maybe it's I mean, honestly, how many people can smuggle a pie into the museum on the same day?
yeah,
If 300 people brought pies in,
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
whatever.
And if they
What
went
are you
and
gonna do?
pied different pieces,
It's
you know,
always the Mona Lisa. The Mona
always the
Lisa is
Mona Lisa.
always getting a bad rap.
Yeah.
Poor,
Well, I think
poor
it's
lady.
because she's iconic, right? But
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because they know she's protected, so we'll go and do it because it's protected, and
And
then
then subsequently the punishment is less because
uh,
they don't really.
or they don't really want to ruin the art. They just want to make a statement,
Yeah,
right?
I
Like,
mean,
that's not a
honestly,
bold enough statement.
I don't think it. I don't think anybody's thinking about that. I
Yeah.
think it's a passion. People are sitting around the coffee table. Yeah, let's get the pie. Let's get the pie. Let's go. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much planning goes into an attack like that.
Yeah. If I've got a pie in my lap, I'm
I'm
gonna
eating
eat
it.
it.
I know.
There's the soundbite right there.
It's a waste of pie.
Yeah, it's for real.
Well, we're coming to the end of the show, Dave. What information do you want to impart with the masses today?
I just okay. So we're doing this a little different this time. I'm going to start posing a question. Right. So we're going to do a
Okay.
question of the day, but it's really a question of the episode or whatever. And this is very self-serving, guys. Do you prefer audio or video podcasts? And actually, somebody else asked me this question. That was my wife, actually. I think she said, why do you watch the podcast versus, like, listening to the podcast? It's like, well, because I'm here in the house all day. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I like the visual stimuli. I don't necessarily watch it the whole time. It's kind of like in the background, but every once in a while I might turn to the TV and look and see what they're, because sometimes it's like you relate to the words coming out of their mouth, like the face saying the thing versus just hearing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So you, dear listeners,
Right.
watchers, do you
Mhm.
prefer the audio or do you prefer the video?
Mhm.
And so go down to the comments and let us know. And while you're down there, make sure you hit the like button because you just passed it. So go hit that like button. Anyway, what about you, Julie? What do you know?
I'm Julie, and this is what I know. What I know is, I know a lot, but what I want to tell everybody is, one size artistry does not exist. What I'm doing is not the correct way for everybody to run the business, and I see a lot of people trying to emulate other businesses and believing that they are entitled to the same level of success or whatever measurable quantities. Listen, do what is authentic to you. Do things from your heart. And I believe that people will connect with you better that way if you're not trying to succumb to some sort of industry mold that you're reading about on social media. That's my advice to you. Do what you like the best, what you love, what's in your heart.
Yeah, it's great. That's good news. That's good stuff. I really think.
Yeah, and wait, I want to add one. I just saw. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, she's got something else she knows.
I wrote it down. There's another point here in the notebook. Check in with yourself monthly, quarterly, or whatever to make sure that you're still. So, like, write it down. Check check with yourself to make sure, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Make sure that you're still staying true, because it's very easy to get distracted and go down the path of something that isn't, on your authentic vision board.
Yeah. I think that's a good overarching piece of advice for everything we talked about today, especially for the activists with your stupid pies. Check yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
What is that? Who said that?
That's Ice Cube.
NWA. Oh, Ice Cube. Yeah. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. We'll end on that note.
Yeah. All right. Well, look. I mean, my timer's a little off, but I think we're on point. We're like
that's good.
41 really,
but
I got my timer. But we're like, this is exactly what we wanted. So thanks very much.
I'm proud of us.
Right on. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you appreciate this episode. Make sure, again, go down, hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. If you've got something to share, make sure you answer the question and go down in the comments and tell us that. If you want to subscribe, please do. And if you get a chance to go listen to the audio podcast, the links are in the description. Go there and give us a rating of your choice, but preferably one that has 5 stars in it.
Please.
Right, preferably. Okay. I've been Dave Conry. This is Julie Pritchard. And we'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks everybody for watching. See you soon.